How Africa fed itself before they decided it couldn't. This is another segment of what they replace. And on this segment, I want to talk about the seed. My last one, I talk about the mind. You have eaten Ofada rice. Maybe at a party. Maybe your mother made it with that stew. The one with the locust beans, the palm oil, the assorted meat. You ate it and you enjoyed it. And then you went back to your imported long grain because it was cheaper, because it was easier to find, because somehow, somewhere, you absorbed the idea that the local ones was the inferior ones. I want to talk to you today about food, not as nutrition, not as culture, as evidence. Because the story of what Africa ate before someone decided what Africa should eat instead is one of the most suppressed arguments for African sovereignty that exists. And it begins or doesn't end with a grain of rice. 2 rice species exist in the world. Africa owns one. There are only 2 domesticated rice species in the entire world. Asian rice, Oryza sativa, domesticated in China, and African rice, Oryza glabarima, domesticated in Africa. In the inland delta of the upper Niger River, in what is today Mali, approximately 2,000 to 3,000 years ago. Not a variant of Asian rice, not a lesser version, a completely independent domestication, original African. From there, it spread across West Africa into the hands of farmers who spent generations learning its behavior, selecting the seed that performs best in their specific conditions, adapting it to drought, to difficult soil, to the variable rainfall of the West Africa climate. That is not primitive culture. That is generational science. African rice tolerates droughts. It tolerates iron-toxic soil. It resists the parasite plant, stringer, one of the most destructive agricultural traits in sub-Saharan Africa. Naturally without pesticide. Its protein content flows higher than Asian rice. Its wide leaves shade out weeds, reducing the labor needed to maintain it. This grain was not waiting to be improved. It was already adapted, already resilient, already feeding people well. Ofada rice, what you ate at that party, is this grain, Oryza glabarima, still alive, still growing in Ogun State, still carrying 3,000 years of African agricultural knowledge in every grain. But rice is only the beginning of the story. Before the supermarket, before the imports, what Africa actually ate, there is a table, not a restaurant table, not a table in a book. The table I grew up near. The food system I watched function in my village. Before anyone decided it needed to be replaced. The men hunted. My grandfather's trap catch animals that you cannot easily buy today. Bush animals, wild game, unfarmed, unprocessed, unmedicated protein. Hear that again. Unfarmed, unprocessed, unmedicated protein. The West later told us this meat would make us sick. Nobody in that village caught disease from it. Nobody had a heart attack. The elders, the grandmothers, the grandfathers lived long. Not 80 years in a hospital bed. 80 years still walking the length of the village. Still going to farm. Still present. Still sharp. When my grandfather's trap cost more than the family needed, my grandmother dried the meat with pepper and spice, and she gave it also to friends around. Not as charity. Not a matter of course. A thing of pride. You share what you have because sharing is what people do. Nothing was monetized. Nothing was packaged. The food moved through the community this way. Water moves naturally towards where it was needed. Beyond the bushmeat, the food system was diverse in a way that modern agricultural science is only now beginning to understand as strategically intelligent. White yam, not the pale, starchy import. The African yam, grown in rotation, harvested at the right season, stored ways that preserve its natural content. Locust beans, iru in Yoruba, dawa in Hausa, fermented, poignant, deeply nutritious, a complete protein source, a probiotic before the world existed. Palm oil, not the refined, decolored, industrially processed version that clog arteries and sit in packaged biscuits, but red palm wine, one of the most nutrient-dense fats on earth, rich in vitamin E, and antioxidants. Garden egg, bitter leaf, uziza, moringa, which the West now sells in supplement capsules at premium prices as a superfood discovery, growing wide in African compounds for centuries, used by African grandmothers who did not need a supplement label to know what it did. This was not a subsistence diet. This was a sophisticated, diverse food system built on deep knowledge of local ecology. What grew where? What season? What combination of food produced what result in the body? The chronic diseases burden devastating African cities today, the diabetes, the hypertension, the obesity was not present in that system. It arrived with the replacement. How do you replace something that works? Of course, you change the matrix. You declare the winner and call it development. In the middle of the 16th century, the Portuguese introduced Asian rice into West Africa. Asian rice produced more grain per harvest. That is its advantage. More volume, higher yield, easy to mill industrially, easier to ship. Those are not African farmers' priorities. Those are colonial trade priorities. A colonial economy needs volume. It needs crops that can be harvested in bulk, processed efficiently, and sold at scale in European markets. Resilience does not appear in that calculation. Nutrition does not appear in that calculation. The knowledge embedded in 3,000 years of African agricultural practice does not appear in that calculation. Only yield, only volume, only export value, and so the metric change. Not through force, through incentives, through a trade system that rewarded volume and had no mechanism to value what African food actually provided. This is how you replace something that works. You do not destroy it directly. You make it compete on terms it was never designed to compete on. And when it loses on those terms, we call that progress. The same logic that replaced African rice with imported grain, replaced African bushmeat with factory farmed chicken, full of antibiotics, replaced red palm oil with hydrogenated vegetable fats, replaced locust beans with seasoning cubes made of monosodium glutamate and salt, replaced moringa and bitter leaf with vitamin supplements manufactured in Europe. Different products, same method. Change the metric, subsidize the replacement, flood the market, make the local option expensive or hard to find. And wait, within 2 generations, people forget what they ate before. They forget what it did for their bodies. They forget that the knowledge existed. And then you can sell them the supplement version of what their grandmother grew in the compound. The theft. South Carolina was built on African seed, African knowledge, and African labor. Now I need to tell you something that American history books omit. When enslaved Africans were loaded into ships on the West Africa coast, specifically from the region European slave traders called the Rice Coast, covering modern Sierra Leone, Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, Senegal, and Gambia. They did not arrive in America as blank slates. They arrived as experts. Slave ship captain wrote in their logs documents that exist that are in the historical record that Africans from the Rice Coast were specifically requested by Carolina planters, not just for their physical labor, for their knowledge. The knowledge of how to prepare the soil, how to manage water levels, how to build the leaves and the dike that rice cultivation requires, how to harvest, how to process, how to store. This was specialized, sophisticated, generationally accumulated expertise. Those same logs record that captain fed enslaved Africans their family grain during the crossing because it reduced the likelihood of revolts. Let me see, when they see the rice, they kukuma say, okay, at least we get something where we know to eat. They fed people their own food to suppress their resistance. By 1720, rice was South Carolinians' most valuable export. The wealth that built the plantations, the wealth that built the cities, the wealth that compounded into financial foundations of the American South was built on African seed, African knowledge, African labor, all three, not just the labor. The seed, the knowledge, the labor, 2 of those 3 have been waiting 300 years for acknowledgement. What the science now confirms. They are researching what African farmers already knew 3,000 years ago. In 1994, researchers at the West Africa Rice Development Association developed Nerica, that is, New Rice for Africa, a hybrid of African and Asian rice. The goal was to combine the higher yield of Asian rice with the resilience, disease resistance, and nutritional profile of African rice. What does it tell you? That the cutting edge of modern rice research is trying to recover the properties of the grain that was displaced. It tells you the displacement was a loss, not a gain. The scientific community is now spending resources to rebuild what African farmers spent 3,000 years developing and what a colonial trade system spent 400 years marginalizing. African rice did not go extinct. It survived in Nigeria. In Ofada rice, grown in Ogun State, eaten at parties, made into stew, carried in the food memory of Yoruba families. It survived in Suriname, South America, found growing among descendants of enslaved Africans, preserved across centuries of displacement, carried in memory and in practice because the people who held it knew it was worth keeping. The seed traveled in the hands of people who had lost everything, and it survived. Now, here is an argument. What the seed tells us. It is what I want you to carry from this episode. Africa did not need to be taught to eat. Africa built a food system, diverse, resilient, adapted to its own ecology, that fed its people well and produced a quality of life that the imported alternatives have not replicated. The grain was developed independently. The food knowledge was deep and specific. The sharing economy around food meant that abundance moved towards whoever needed it without a price tag attached. Nobody monetized the mango on the tree. Nobody charged for the yam seed borrowed. Because planting season, nobody packaged the moringa and sold it back to you as a monthly subscription. The food was the community, grown from the land, shared through relationships, prepared with knowledge that passed from grandmother to grandchild in the kitchen, in the compound, in the everyday ordinary practice of feeding people well. That system was not replaced because it failed. It was replaced because a continent that fed itself with its own seed, processed its own food, holds its own agricultural knowledge, is a continent that does not need to import what it already has. And a continent that does not need to import is harder to keep dependent. The next time someone tells you Africa was waiting to be developed, ask them about the rice. Ask them about the bushmeat and the herders who lived to 80 still farming. Ask them about the moringa your grandmother used for free that they are now selling in capsules. Ask them what they did with the seed. And then go and eat your Ofada rice with the full knowledge of what it is. 3,000 years of African science on your plate. Healthier, nutritious. My name is Inye. This is a segment of what they replaced was working. A series documenting what colonial systems suppressed, erased, and replaced across Africa, and the evidence that what existed before was working. Every claim in this video is verified before it leaves this platform. Share this with someone who thinks Africa had nothing before colonialism arrived. The Ofada rice in your plate is the evidence that they are wrong. I just want to add this. You know, they said knowledge is truly power. I used to have disdain for this our rice. And I only eat long grain. I can promise you that. This last long grain I'm having, although this one, they made it in a way that is closer. It's not just a white long grain. It's kind of brown. That's that kind of rice they're trying to develop for Africa. Africa and long grain is a kind of two marrying each other. But when this rice finishes, it is Ofada rice all the way. It is our native rice all the way. Because information has a way of resetting your mind. That obsession of it must be long grain, it must be basmati. For me, it is buried after I made this research. Thank you for watching. Share this video.